Hi, this is Michael Kummer, and in today's video we'll talk about everything that I've learned over the past 45 or so days sleeping with 8Sleep, a temperature-controlled sleep system that consists of a memory foam mattress, an active grid, which is the topper, and a hub that brings all of that technology together. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel and you click on the little alert button so you get notified when I publish more videos like this. One of the things I want to talk about first real quick is the importance of sleep quality. Now let me ask you this, do you sleep well? Do you think you sleep well? Do you wake up rested and ready to take on the world every morning? I've asked these questions a couple of my friends and acquaintances, and most respond with, no, I don't really sleep well. Sleep is a struggle for me. I either have issues falling asleep, I wake up often in the middle of the night, or I wake up and don't really feel rested. And that's a problem because if you don't sleep well, then you're not as good as handling stress. So your stress hormones are higher than they should be, especially if we talk about chronic stress. Your body takes longer to recover, either from physical activity, from injury, or from stressors that stress you mentally. And so there is a lot going on while you sleep. It's not a period where your body isn't doing anything. There is a lot of stuff going on inside of your body. There are hormones being produced and released, like growth hormone, that can help with recovery. There is the sex hormones that are getting released during certain stages of sleep. So for instance, testosterone. So if you're low on testosterone, maybe it's because your sleep is poor. And there are many other factors. My wife and I do CrossFit, so we're pretty active. We beat our bodies up about 6 times a week in the gym. And so it's incredibly important for us to have an environment that supports active recovery. And sleep is incredibly important. In fact, if you don't sleep well, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how much you exercise or how well you eat. If your sleep is off, that's really the foundation of everything else that follows during the day. So it's important to sleep well, and one of the key issues that I have seen is controlling the temperature during sleep. And the reason why that's important is because your body's temperature naturally changes as you fall asleep and during certain stages of your sleep, and you want to support that change in temperature. For example, in order to fall asleep, your body's core temperature has to decrease by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you don't sleep in an environment that's conducive to allowing your body to reduce its core temperature, you might have troubles falling asleep. If you're too hot during the night, you might wake up to uncover yourself, and then later on in the night, when your body temperature naturally drops, maybe recover yourself because you're suddenly too cold. I'm sure you've experienced that. I certainly have, especially during the warmer months of the season. I cover and uncover myself constantly. So temperature control is incredibly important, and that's one of the main reasons why I was so excited to start using 8Sleep and to control the temperature throughout the night so it matches my personal rhythm and my body's natural change in temperature. So let's talk about 8Sleep. 8Sleep is a system. It consists of a memory foam mattress that has 5 layers. It's a medium firm mattress. Now, what's important is that the memory foam that's used in 8Sleep is Centripure US certified. And what that basically means is that it's been inspected, and you can be assured that there are no harmful chemicals in that foam, which you will find in many other memory foam mattresses, pillows, and other products made of memory foam. So the 8Sleep mattress has a certification that it doesn't have formaldehyde and other toxic chemicals. It's low VOC, etc. So it's basically the best memory foam you can get. The second component of the 8Sleep system is the mattress topper. 8Sleep calls it the active grid. And it's called the active grid because it's literally a grid of water tubes that go across the whole surface of the mattress that can circulate water at a temperature of your preference. And it also has sensors built in that can monitor your sleep, including your heart rate variability, the time it takes you to fall asleep, how often you wake up, how much you toss and turn, your breathing or respiratory rate, your stages of sleep and how long you spent in each of those stages, etc. So it's a fairly advanced sleep tracker that's built into the Active Grid. And the third component is called the hub. And the hub is basically an appliance that holds the water tank. So that's the water that circulates through the surface of the mattress, or through the Active Grid, I should say. It is the component that connects to your Wi-Fi. So you can have your data in your account, etc. It basically brings all of that together. So three components: we have the memory foam mattress, we have the Active Grid, and we have the hub. That makes up the 8 Sleep system. Now, one thing that's important is if you already have a mattress and you absolutely love it and you don't want to get rid of it, but you want to enjoy the benefits of what 8 Sleep has to offer, you can get the mattress cover only. I think 8 Sleep calls it the Pod Pro cover. And also the whole system is called the Pod or the Pod Pro. So that's what 8 Sleep calls that whole sleep system there. But you can get the topper only, including the hub, and so you can retrofit your existing mattress with the same technology that we have in our bedroom right now. Now, everything that 8 Sleep can do, you can control via its mobile app. So let me show you a little bit around in the app so you can see what it can do, how the analytics look like and the reporting, etc., how you can change the temperature, all of that. So let's jump right in here. All right, so I'm in the 8 Sleep app, and right now it shows off because it's the middle of the day now and my mattress isn't doing anything. But one thing you can see already here on the bottom of the screen is the different temperature settings. So you can set the temperature you want to have, the surface temperature of your mattress for bedtime, for the initial phase of the sleep, for the later phase of the sleep, and then for waking up. So you can have different temperatures, and the idea basically is to kind of mimic and support your body's core temperature changes. So it gets colder and then it gets warmer as you wake up. And then at the very end, I have it set to go colder again because that encourages me to get out of bed. Because if it's warm and cozy in the morning, you might be inclined to stay in bed a little longer. So that's how I have set it. And it's very simple to set. You can just click on, there is a wizard that you can go through and you can answer a couple of questions. And you can basically customize it using that wizard. So it basically asks you, are you a hot sleeper? Are you super hot? Are you, do you generally feel cold at night or in bed? And based on that, it recommends something. There are some studies that 8 Sleep has done. So, everyone who sleeps very hot at night, these are the ideal temperatures where people fall asleep the fastest, for example. So we're not going to go through the wizard here, but instead I'm going to show you how I've mine set up. So for bedtime, I've set it to -1. That's cool. And based on my cohort, I guess, based on people who tend to sleep hot at night, this is the ideal setting to fall asleep the quickest. Okay, so it's set to -1. I can't set degrees directly, so that doesn't mean -1 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius or anything. It's just on a scale from, I think it's let's see how far it goes, I don't even know, -10 to +10. So I've set mine to -1. So in case you want to know what the temperature range is exactly, it ranges from 55 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a fairly broad range and it gets fairly cold. In my first night, I actually turned it down all the way to -8 or so, and I was feeling like I was sleeping on a frozen lake. So it gets pretty cold if that's what you want. Now back to our app here. So bedtime, I set it to -1. So when I get to bed, it already starts cooling before my set bedtime. So I can tell the app when I usually go to bed and when I wake up, and based on that, it starts pre-cooling. So when I get into bed, it's already cold or cooler. Then as I start falling asleep, it cools down to -3. So that's fairly cold. And then in the final stages of sleep, it goes up to -2. And then when I wake up, it actually stays at -2 in my particular case. I had it set differently. I tried different settings, but this is what I feel most comfortable with. Now, the other thing you can do here in your wake up settings is you can set an alarm. So you can not only set the time when you want to wake up, but you can also set a vibration alarm. So you can turn it on and that vibrates your side of the bed. And that's kind of like a gentle indicator or a gentle alarm for you to wake up in case you're someone who doesn't have a very consistent sleep and or bed and sleep and wake up time, I typically don't need an alarm. I get up at the same time within 15 minutes every day because my body is used to that rhythm. But if you're like a shift worker or if your bed times are irregular, that smart alarm can really help you get up without disturbing anyone else. Now, if you set it too high, I should say, your bad neighbor might feel the vibrations. So I had it set to like 5 or so in the beginning, and if my wife was in light sleep at the time of the alarm going off, she would feel it. At 3, she doesn't feel it. So you have to experiment a little bit depending on how sensitive your partner is. Now, the other thing I should mention that's very important, you can set different temperature settings on both sides of the bed. So, you know, obviously no two people are exactly the same, and your partner might want to sleep warmer or colder than you, and with 8 sleep you can do that. So you can actually see it up here. There is MK for Michael, and then I have Kathy, and you can see my wife's temperature settings look completely different. She is on a 0, 0, +1, and then -1 to wake up, and her alarm is set to 6 a.m. So that's very good because it means you can have different settings and everyone can hopefully get the best quality of sleep possible. The other thing that's then very interesting is, well, maybe one more thing you can see up here, the house temperature is set 70, and that's important because 8 sleep takes the ambient temperature and the weather outside, which might influence humidity, etc., into account, because the temperature that you perceive changes based on the ambient temperature and other factors. So it's not only the absolute temperature of the mattress, the surface of the mattress, it's also room temperature and other factors that 8 sleep takes into account. The other thing then, once you have woken up in the morning, you get a daily sleep report with a score from 0 to 100. 100 is the perfect sleep score, but really everything above 90 or so is pretty good. And there are a couple of factors that go into that score. One is the time it takes you, well, the time you go to bed, because the more consistent you are going to bed, the better it is for your quality of sleep, because we all thrive on routine. Your body has a circadian rhythm that works best, and your body works best if that circadian rhythm is undisturbed. So if you do the same things or go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, etc. So if you don't do that, either because you have to be a shift worker and there is no other option, or because of lifestyle choices, then you might get a lower score if your bedtime is not consistent. The other thing, the time slept. So you want to roughly sleep the same time every day, and for me that's between 8 and 8.5 hours, and that's really includes the total time, including the time in bed. So I don't really sleep 8 hours without any disturbances. I might wake up as part of my natural sleep cycles. It might take me a while to fall asleep. I might stay in bed a few minutes before I get out, etc. So all of that is lumped into those 8 hours. So I guess overall I sleep about 7.5 hours ish on average. But that should be consistent as well for best sleep performance. Then the other thing is wake up consistency. So you want to again wake up roughly at the same time every day to support your circadian rhythm. That goes into the sleep score. The time it takes you to fall asleep. For me, that's usually 20 minutes or less. I used to be about 10 minutes, and I think if you fall asleep really quick, that's usually an indication that there is some sleep debt going on, because it should take you between 10 and 20 minutes or so. But you won't get dinged by the app if you fall asleep within 30 minutes. Anything longer and there is something going on. Either you're not tired yet because you slept too much the previous night, or there was a time zone change, or you traveled, or you drank late coffee, or whatever the case might be that could disrupt the amount of time it takes you to fall asleep, or stress, even if your head doesn't stop spinning. Then time to leave bed, that's also a factor, but it's not as important as some of the other factors. And then we can see the sleep analysis. So that tells us how much time we've spent in the various stages of sleep. And we'll talk about the accuracy of that sleep analysis here in a little bit, but just so you know, it can track the times you got up out of bed, basically, your tosses and turns, the time you spent in light sleep, the time you spent awake, in deep sleep, and in REM sleep. And just as an indication, because many people ask, well, how much time do I need in deep sleep and REM sleep? And as a general rule of thumb is about 40% of REM and deep sleep combined you want to have. So in last night it seems like I had 20% deep sleep and 16% REM sleep, so I was about 4% short. I mean, there is a range. Maybe I had more REM sleep the day before, and so tonight or last night I needed a little less, etc. But you can see that here, and then you can see your tosses and turns and your sleeping heart rate. And the sleeping heart rate or the resting heart rate is generally an indication of your fitness, but what's more important than the absolute numbers is the deviation from your baseline. So if you always have a resting heart rate or sleeping heart rate of 60 beats per minute, and then suddenly it goes up to 70, that tells you something is going on. Something causes your heart to beat faster, either because your body is fighting an infection or other reasons that might influence it. Maybe you ate too much, and so that's an important indicator to keep track of as far as your health is concerned. And then we have the bed surface temperature. As you can see, on average, the bed surface temperature was 85 degrees, the minimum was 76, and the max was 87. You can edit the sleep session if you want to, if you see something incorrect. There are some cases where it doesn't pick something up correctly, or where you went out of bed and maybe your partner rolled over and was like half on your side, and then it thought you were still in bed. There are some special cases where you might want to edit the session. And then the other thing I want to show you in here is your vitals, basically, or a different set of vitals, and that includes the HRV, your heart rate variability. That's the difference in timings between heartbeats. And while that might sound incredibly irrelevant, it's actually absolutely important, because that variability tells you, it's an indirect indication of how your nervous system is doing. So how your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, those two branches, are competing with each other. And that's important to know, because the lower your HRV is compared to your baseline. So don't compare your numbers with someone else's. Typically, my wife is a couple of years younger. Her HRV is typically higher in absolute numbers. That's irrelevant for the most part. What's important is the changes and deviations from your baseline. So if you always have an HRV, in my case between 63 and 77, and suddenly it drops to 40, that's again an indication that your nervous system, your sympathetic in that case, is in overdrive. It might be fighting an infection. You might be poorly recovered because you worked out too much. You might be extra stressed, or whatever the case might be. Something is triggering one branch of the nervous system to work harder than the other. And in particular, in combination with your sleeping heart rate and your respiratory rate. So in my case here, you can see it's fairly straight. There is a gap in my data because we had a power outage for 3 days, a couple of days ago. So that's why my 8 sleep didn't work. But you can see it's fairly consistent, around 12 breaths per minute. And that's also important, because studies have shown or have correlated a significant increase in respiratory rate with coronavirus infections. So if yours suddenly jumps from, or if mine were to jump from 12 to 16, something is going on. If at the same time my HRV drops and my resting heart rate or sleeping heart rate goes up, I know with almost certainty my body is fighting something. And so in many cases, and in some of the studies that both 8 Sleep and as well as Whoop, the fitness tracker that I'm using, have been doing, they've directly correlated that with coronavirus infections or other respiratory issues. And you can see that already before the onset of symptoms. And that's incredibly, well, fascinating on the one hand, but also important, because you can take action right away. And so that's why I always look at my HRV, my respiratory rate, my sleeping heart rate, and make sure it stays within my average and my baseline. All right, and there are some help articles that can help you, what is HRV and why it's important, etc. So you can look that up. And then last but not least, in the app, there are certain, apps and programs that can help you meditate, breathe, listen, to white noise or some other nature sounds that promote good sleep, some movement exercise, etc. All with the purpose of helping you to be more relaxed, to get into a sleep routine, to reduce stress, and to promote good sleep. In addition with what the technology of 8 Sleep can do in terms of controlling the temperature. So let's talk about pricing. The 8 Sleep system is fairly competitively priced, I want to say. So if you go out and just buy a regular mattress, a quality mattress, you might end up paying much more than you pay for the whole 8 Sleep system. And so just to give you an indication, I mean, there are sales going on all the time, and there are different sizes for queen, for king, for California king, etc. And different options you can pick and choose from. There's like a pricing matrix that I'll try to show up here somewhere in the video, and then I'm also going to have a link down there. But for the queen mattress, for the Pod Pro, you pay approximately $3,000. If you only want to do the topper or the Pod Pro cover, it starts at around $1,500 or so. Now the good news is I have a discount link that I'm gonna link below in the description. So if you use that, you get $150 off. Yeah, it's not the most inexpensive mattress there is, but also that's because 8 Sleep is not just a mattress, it's a whole system. And so you pay a little more, but I'm convinced that as far as sleep is concerned, this is one of the best investments you'll ever make if you decide to go with 8 Sleep. So let's talk about how our sleep has changed since we started sleeping with 8 Sleep about a month and a half ago. And I've always slept fairly well. I have a consistent bed routine or sleep routine. I've always had, well, not always, but for the past few years at least. The quality of my sleep was always relatively good. But I knew that there was room for improvement, and one of the areas that we've been struggling with is controlling the temperature, because in our current home we've one central AC unit or HVAC unit that heats and cools obviously. Changing the temperature at night to accommodate for a cooler sleeping environment basically means to cool down the whole house. That's somewhat of a waste of energy, And so we decided that we need something that is more personalized, that we can control directly without affecting everything else in the house and without potentially wasting a lot of energy. So, and the other thing in our home is it's a 2-story home, and it's one central AC unit, and as you know, hot air rises and cold air goes down. So on the lower level, it's always colder than in the upper level where we sleep. And so there is a discrepancy, depending on how you set the AC, one of the 2 levels is gonna be too hot or too cold. And so that was another reason why we were looking into systems that can help us to have more control over our sleeping environment and the temperature at which we sleep at. And so with 8 Sleep, we found the perfect solution, because I can set exactly the temperature that I want, and my wife can set her temperature as well. We still keep the room temperature lower than maybe some others. We sleep at around 68, 69 degrees or so in summer. And in winter, we typically turn off the heat overnight, so we just let it cool down as much as it cools down, which is not incredibly low here in Georgia, but still. Before we wrap it up, a couple of frequently asked questions that I've gotten a lot. One is, where can I try that mattress? Obviously, before you want to spend $3 grand, you maybe want to find out, if you like it, if the firmness is to your expectations, etc. Unfortunately, 8 Sleep doesn't have any brick and mortar stores, so you cannot go into a shop and lie on it for a little bit. However, if you don't like the mattress, you can return it to 8 Sleep, and they cover shipping and everything. So you don't lose anything by placing the order and then finding out that you don't like it. I think you'll love it and you'll stick with it. But worst case scenario, rest assured, you can return it to 8 Sleep. The other question, and I think I already mentioned it, can I set the temperature individually on both sides? And yes, you certainly can. It wouldn't make much sense to have like one temperature for the whole bed, and then either you or your partner are screwed, or have to you have to fight for who gets the temperature. So yes, you can set it on both sides individually. That way, both you and your partner can sleep and there is no issue. The other question is, I sleep on my back typically. My wife sleeps on her side. Sometimes she rolls on her stomach, and the question is, is that mattress, is that 8 Sleep mattress better for back sleepers or side sleepers or stomach sleepers? And I think it works for all type of sleepers. Obviously, if you sleep on your stomach, you probably don't want to use a pillow, or only a very thin one, because otherwise your neck would be up in a weird position. But just from a comfort perspective, I typically sleep on my side, like in a soldier position or sometimes starfish with my arms up. And it's perfectly fine. My wife on her side has no complaints. I sometimes roll to my side, and I've slept, for a couple of hours on my side, and I haven't noticed any discomfort or anything. So it's the memory foam is very comfortable and very much contours to the shape of your body, regardless of how you sleep. So that wraps it up. Thanks for sticking with me. Again, 8Sleep is a very advanced and incredibly powerful temperature control sleep system that can make sure you fall asleep quicker, you stay asleep, and you wake up refreshed simply by controlling the temperature based on the natural change of body temperature that you would experience during the night. So there is no more, oh, I'm too hot or I'm too cold. You can set the temperature to exactly the setting that works best for you. You can even change the setting for individual stages of your night, like the bedtime, initial sleep time, etc., etc. So you can have it warm in the morning if you like, or warm going to bed and then colder later, etc. All of that is possible. The app is super powerful and super easy to use. You get very advanced sleep analytics and sleep tracking with your HRV, sleep stage detection, etc. All of that in the app. You get a sleep report, you get tips and tricks on how you can improve your sleep. I'm also going to link some of the articles that I've written about sleep down below in the description, so check them out. If you need more information about pricing and some of the other things that I didn't have a chance to mention in this video, check out my written review on my blog, also linked below, that goes into even more details so you can see exactly how we've been using it, why it's so great, and in a nutshell, really, it's the best mattress and the best sleep system really we've ever had, and we've been sleeping incredibly well. And I'm glad that I ran into 8Sleep. I think it was actually an Instagram ad that I saw, and so I reached out to the company, and the rest is history, and I much appreciate that. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments what I could have done better so I can improve. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the little alert button so you get notified when I publish more videos like this. Until next time.